That's considered to be better. So regarding this, right, that's what we're talking about. Um, but a person who does it too much, what happens is, right, it says the Rambam that he also hurts his health. Becomes like a chicken, becomes like a rabbit, whatever you want to call it, right? Then what happens is that he becomes like, a person who's addicted, and he loses his physical prowess. He loses his eyesight, a little bit. That doesn't mean he goes blind, like that old. You know what I'm saying? The idea is that he starts to lose his focus in his eyes. He's too much, yeah. Yeah. Right. So, was there also another question you asked, by the way, regarding this? Did I forget something to address something you said? Did I forget? Okay. So the idea is like this: all right, don't overdo it, because once you overdo it, what happens is that you become very weakened. You're. And also, they say, by the way, another thing. Another, another thing they say about that. You know what the Rambam says regarding that? Who was one of the great doctors of the world? Says the Rambam that most people die because of too much sex, because it causes diseases. It weakens the body so much, so the immune system gets weak, and he starts to, this is what So, but what are we talking about here? We're not talking about somebody who does it like on a daily basis every day. That's considers to be still normal. Yeah, we're talking about the 5 times a day guy. You know what I'm saying? With those guys, you know what I mean? 5 times a day. Like he's just making it into like a plaything. Right. But the truth is that a person who's healthy and he knows himself, right, that this is good for him, no problem to be every day. No problem. No problem with that. If that's what he thinks is good, for his body, and is right, and if wife agrees, right, his wife agrees with that, it's no problem. You have to get out to agree also, because otherwise you can't rape her. By the way, a person is not allowed to rape his wife. Hate to tell you, but yeah, that's something else. Bribe is good. Bribe is good. Bribe is very good. I have no problem with bribing. Yeah. 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 Right. Right, but let's say she doesn't feel like it, whatever. She can't, sometimes a woman is not in the mood, what can I do? Okay. Oh. If she's doing it on purpose to give, to make your life hard, this is a very big sin. That's something else. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about just sometimes she's not in the mood, whatever, something. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. That's the idea. Okay, so anyway, getting back to what we said, right? That over here, for men, we have 40 days altogether. But the interesting thing is, as we said, like that those 33 days, even though she's bleeding, it's allowed. So not always bleeding is something which is not allowed. Something interesting, by the way, the Talmud says about that. You know what it says? There are some people who have this like desire to be with a woman when she's bleeding. Like there's some kind of fetish like this. Yeah, whatever. So they say that he can do that during this period. In other words, he can fulfill his desire during this time, those 33 days. He has a time to fulfill his desire. But the truth is, right nowadays, I must tell you, the custom amongst all the Jews today is not to do this, though. What does that mean? That the rabbis pretty much, the Gaonim, right, which about 1,000 years ago, more than 1,000 years ago, they forbade this, to be with your wife when she's bleeding, even though she's really clean, according to the Torah. But they added something a little bit extra there, extra layer. What does that mean? Wait till she stops bleeding altogether, and then be with her. You know why that is? What's the reason why they made this stringency? The reason why they made it was because they were afraid that maybe a person will miscount these days, and therefore he's going to come to be with her at a time that he thinks that she's pure, but she's actually not pure. You know what I mean? So therefore they said, you know what, this is a little bit too dangerous for our times. People are not so particular about counting these things. Everything is not so particular. So therefore, right, they said, let's get rid of this thing. So therefore now the custom amongst all the Jews is not to do that. But I want to tell you, right, regarding the woman, let's say she gives birth to a girl. So then what happens there, right? Now it's a totally different ball game. We said, right, with the boy it's 7 days and 33 days, altogether 40. Over here it's 14 days now. If she gives birth to a girl, she has to wait 14 days, right? And then she goes to the mikveh, according to the Torah, and then she has to wait another 66 days after that to go to the Bet HaMikdash and to bring her korban. So altogether it's 80 days for the girl. So you see, for the male it's 40, for the girl it's 80, it's double. Interesting, right? So that's the way it is. And as we said, right, same thing applies over here. That once she finishes her 14 days, she goes to the mikveh according to the Torah, and then she can be with her husband even though she's bleeding for the next 66 days, no problem, because she's pure. You understand? This is the way it is. So once the 80 days is over, right, if she gave birth to a girl, then she will go to the mikveh, right, and then go to the Beit HaMikdash and bring her offerings. So this is the way it is, right? That's the idea. So I will tell you, here also, by the way, the rabbis forbade this, right? Also, what does that mean? When you give birth to a girl, they said, don't have relations with your wife when she's bleeding. Even though she's tahor, she's pure, but nevertheless, we're afraid because of a miscount. So therefore, what we say is, right, that what? That just wait till she stops, and then, right, after that, right, let her go to the mikveh one time.
Engaging with your wife when she's having this is one of the worst sins ever.
Yes.
That anybody who does that, I remember
Yes.
will have horrible things happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is a deal breaker. You know what I'm saying? It's like breaking Shabbat. Same level of basically. You know what I mean? It's a deal breaker. So a person has to be very, very careful about that. By the way, the easy thing is like this. There are some people, by the way, who they want to come clean. They want to do tshuva on this. You know what I'm saying? All their life they've been doing this, whatever. So now, right? If they're already old enough, let's say, right, the guy's already like in his 60s, and his wife is in her 50s, whatever, something like that. So if her period's already stopped, basically now, right? She only has to go one time. That's it, right? It's a one-time deal. She doesn't have any more periods every month. So if she already went through menopause, what happens now is, right, she goes one time, and that's it. We're done, right? It's a 2-week process, the whole thing, right? A few days, whatever. Check herself, this, that, the checking, going to the mikveh, right? And that's it. You're done. So basically, right, there is also a big issue, right? A very big benefit for a woman who's not even that. Let's say the husband and wife are not having relations anymore. There's no sex involved. They're too old already, right? There's no more physical prowess, to engage in that, right? Let's say whatever. So nevertheless, right, there is still a very big mitzvah to go to a mikveh at least one time for the woman. You know what I mean? That she should become pure. Why is that? Because they say, by the way, that a woman who's nida, she remains that way all her life like that until she goes to mikveh. There's no time limit there. So what does that mean? They say also, by the way, that this causes damage to the husband as well. What does that mean? That when she's impure, the impurity of nida is very, very strong. So the way she looks at you, the way she talks with you, the way she relates to you, it affects everything, So it can cause a lot of friction, a lot of, disharmony. They say, right, there's even evil eye that gets put on you. Can you imagine? Your own wife puts evil eye on you. If you, because the impurity of nida is so big, it's so large, that it changes the whole eye of the woman. The way she looks at you, the way she thinks of you, all these things, right? Everything changes. So therefore, right, a person, if he wants to come clean after, he's already become a senior citizen, he can do that too. There's no problem. It's still a very big mitzvah to take his wife one time, right? Let her finish it off, right? So this way, now she's going to be pure all her life like that. No problem, right? So this is the way to solve the problem. So the truth is, right, that also regarding that, I just want to explain to you a couple of things. We don't have a lot of time. Yeah, it's already late. I don't want to keep it too long, but I want to also tell you regarding that there are certain things that a person is not allowed to do besides having actually relations with his wife when she's in nida. There's also other things involved there, right? The rabbis made more distancing there, right? More decrees to keep her away, to keep them away from each other, because sometimes when they get too close, they can come to actually do the act. So therefore, to keep them away, right? They said also not to touch her, not to sleep in the same bed, even though there's no hanky panky there, nothing going on. You know what I mean? Doesn't make any difference. Sleep in a different bed, right? There's also the issue of there's certain things, right? She's not allowed to do, like bathe the man, like let's say to pour water on him in the shower, whatever, or the bath, to bathe him, or also to serve him wine, like to mix wine and bring it to him, to serve him. So she do it in a different way with the left hand and the left side of the right hand. There's all kinds of, you cannot hand anything over also, by the way. When the woman is nidah, the rabbis also decreed not to hand anything over to your wife directly. So what you do is it indirectly, right? Put it on the table, let her pick it up from there, right? Something like that, you know what I mean? All these things, the rabbis made distancing, from the nidah, in order that there should be no contact whatsoever. So the truth is, right, that you're allowed to talk with her. That's not the issue, right? But they say also don't talk with her too much. You know what I'm saying? Don't now start like philosophy and all kinds of romantic conversations, when she's nidah. Because this can lead to all kinds of things, you know what I mean? So a person should try to, just talk like, straight. Like you talk, like very cordial in a way, cordial in a manner. This way, right, doesn't lead to anything more, right? There's also issue of making the bed, that she can't make the bed in front of him, because this also can lead to something, whatever. So they say, right, she should make the bed when he's not there in the room. Make the bed, and then he comes in, right? Then he sleeps there, whatever. The idea is like this, right? So all these things. There's a story I want to tell you. We'll stop here, right? We're getting late. So there's a story in the Gemara about this issue. Something really frightening, actually, right? Something pretty scary. It happens like this, right? That there's one woman who comes in to the yeshiva, right? They have a yeshiva over there. The rabbis are sitting there studying Torah, blah, blah, blah. So this lady comes in, and she's all upset, crying and very emotional, So the rabbis are looking at her like, what happened to you? Like, what happened? There was an earthquake? What happened to you? So she says, no, she says, my husband passed away, and my husband was a big rabbi, big scholar, a big Talmid Chacham, Chachamiro. So she says, you know what? It says, she comes sits with the rabbis there, stands there. She says, I want you to tell me, you rabbis, you're supposed to be the wise people. So tell me, why did my husband die? What did he do wrong? He was a very righteous man. He was a tzaddik. He didn't do any sins. He studied Torah all day and night, nonstop. He was a totally righteous man, pious person. So he says, tell me. She brings a tefillin that he used to wear. This guy, Can you imagine? Why did my husband die? Look at this tefillin. This is my husband's tefillin. Why did he die?